Okay, award nuts. It's BAFTA weekend, and we know what that means. It means that we're going to get some tip-offs about what may likely win the Oscar. But that said, Daniel, I'm going to come to you first and then to Joyce. If we say that the Oscars are can be foretold by the BAFTA wins, why are the overwhelming numbers of people at Gold Derby predicting Three Billboards at BAFTA to win Best Picture and Shape of Water at the Oscars? All the other top categories agree. All the acting, I mean, these are the odds. I'm talking about the predictions at Gold Derby. Why Best Picture? What's the difference?
Well, main Best Picture difference, of course, is the preferential ballot at the Oscars, and that could be why BAFTA and Oscar have disagreed on Best Picture for the last 3 years in a row. BAFTA went with Boyhood over Birdman, then they went with The Revenant over Spotlight, and then they went with La La Land, like everyone else, over Moonlight. So they haven't actually agreed in a while, but they've agreed quite a lot in most other categories, and it might be that preferential ballot that makes the difference. And so at BAFTA, you also have the situation where Three Billboards actually did much better at BAFTA. Well, not much better, but it got Neil McDonough in for directing. It got an extra cinematography nomination, even British film. It got in. So it has 9 nominations at BAFTA. So they like it a lot more than the Oscars did in terms of at least the total nominations. So it does look stronger there, although I personally am predicting Shape of Water there too. There's reason to believe Three Billboards is stronger at BAFTA even than it might be at the Oscars.
Joyce, explain what that reason is. At the minute BAFTA nominations came out, I was talking with Ann Thompson one day, and she goes, "Oh, well, of course, Three Billboards will sweep, and that will trigger off a discussion among all of us pundits about, oh, now Three Billboards is pulled ahead of Shape of Water at the Oscars." She said, "But I'm not going to fall for that." Well, now I see Ann Thompson's predicting Dunkirk, which is a fascinating prediction for Best Picture, because if it's a British film, it's the big epic, it's all these things. But what is behind the assumption, the overwhelming assumption that Three Billboards wins at BAFTA? Why are we predicting that?
I think we know, like, people like this film, like actors and like a lot of the industry folk like it, and it has some big wins so far. And it's Martin McDonagh. He is a BAFTA winner already for In Bruges, and the film did very well. It has 9 nominations, like Daniel said, and it can win on a plurality vote. We've seen it win on a plurality vote, but it lost PGA on a preferential ballot, and I think that's why people are bullish between that and Shape of Water, between BAFTA and Oscar. But it just has that, even though the Three Billboards is set in the American Midwest, it has that kind of British sensibility. It's very dialogue heavy, and I feel like it's more in the vein of like that classic like British feel than Shape of Water, because I feel like that's more of like a technical visual achievement that they can respect. But I don't know if I can see it winning Best Picture or like winning or sweeping most of the categories that it's nominated for. It's up for 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's your ranking for Best Picture, Joyce, to win at BAFTA?
At BAFTA, I have Three Billboards. I have it winning that and British film right now, and I don't know if I want to keep it winning both, because I can see it, them giving Three Billboards Best Film and then covering like Darkest Hour in British film, because the last film to win both of them is The King's Speech, and that's won like 7 awards.
Yeah, it's unusual to have the Best Picture nominees, frontrunners, also nominated for Best British Film. But let's talk about this too with British film. I'm picking Dunkirk there because, my God, it's a British film. It's about.
It's not nominated in
The Darkest Hour. Do you mean?
Oh, Darkest Hour. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes.
It's the same subject anyway.
Yeah.
Dunkirk movies mixed up. So, the last thing that Three Billboards looks like is a British film to me. I know that's where the production money came from, and it's eligible there. But here in the States, it's Fox Searchlight, of course. But so what else could win? Daniel, what do you have for Best British Film?
I've got Three Billboards winning there too. I feel like in that category that they pick the movie they like and not necessarily the most British movie, although if they pick the most British movie, like it's Darkest Hour in a landslide. It's about Winston Churchill. It's a British speechy, Parliament movie. It's there's no way to beat it if it's the most British movie. But like Gravity won, there was nothing British about it except that it was shot there.
And in that case, it's like they gave it to Gravity so they could give Best Film to 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah, Man on Wire won it. That's about a Frenchman walking across the World Trade Center towers in New York City. So I don't think it necessarily has to be the most British to win Best British Film. It just has to be the film that technically qualifies in that category that they just happen to like the most. And that's Three Billboards. I've actually got Three Billboards winning there and Shape of Water winning Best Picture. Because interestingly, where we've seen a huge split on director and picture at the Oscars, we haven't seen it quite as much at the BAFTAs. La La Land won picture and director, A Boyhood won picture and director, Revenant won picture and director, and I think most of us agree that Guillermo del Toro is winning director at BAFTAs no matter what happens in Best Picture. I've got a split there, but I've got Shape of Water in picture and Three Billboards.
What's hilarious is David Fincher won director at BAFTA and King's Speech.
Oh my God! Oh wow! Wow. But in the case of King's Speech winning both British Film and Best Picture, you could see the logic.
Yeah, like they gave it to Helena Bonham Carter and Jeffrey Rush as well.
So among the acting categories, the Gold Derby odds say that the Oscar frontrunners will win at BAFTA. McDormand and Gary Oldman and Sam Rockwell and Allison Janney. I could see an upset by Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread and the supporting actress. What other, I mean, Sally Hawkins, could she win Best Actress? What upsets could happen here? If there's a Shape of Water sweep, doesn't Sally have a chance to ride that tide, literally?
Yeah, definitely. And neither Sally nor Frances or Saoirse even have won a BAFTA. So it's, and Sally is British. They've, waved their British flag before for homegrown talent. So I think she can definitely sneak out a win there. We did a poll a couple days ago asking like which of the acting frontrunners is the most vulnerable, and 51% of our users picked Allison Janney.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think our odds still have Laurie Metcalf in second behind Allison, but I agree. Like I think Leslie is the dark horse.
I actually think it's interesting. I think Leslie could kind of pull votes from, in an interesting way that could even still help Laurie Metcalf. I don't know how many votes she pulled from Allison Janney versus Laurie Metcalf, but she could split that race enough to give Laurie Metcalf a path to victory. She and Allison Janney are both American actresses, best known for American television, so they don't necessarily have that British appeal. Though Laurie Metcalf has performed on the West End, and I don't think Allison
has also, but she's been over there promoting I, Tonya a lot. I feel like she did like some like career like retrospective a couple months ago.
She's campaigning so hard that she's probably on the flights to London, handing out the peanuts on the plane. Like she's
yeah,
she's working it.
Yeah.
So I am still predicting Allison Janney, but I agree that she's the most vulnerable front runner just because there's this weird with Leslie Manville and still Laurie Metcalf. There's this three-way race dynamic in that race at BAFTA where I think the math is different in a way that I think could result in an upset.
I mean, I think the thing that helps Allison is BAFTA clearly liked I, Tonya more than the Oscars even.
Yeah, but not clearly more than Lady Bird. Like I, Tonya did get more nominations with costumes and makeup and hair. But yeah, it's not like those were categories Lady Bird was in the hunt for.
When we look at the official odds of Gold Derby for BAFTA, Sam Rockwell's ahead by 10 miles for supporting actor, but I would expect Christopher Plummer to be in second place, given his lofty position, but Willem Dafoe is instead, and then Woody Harrelson down in fourth, and Hugh Grant in fifth. Is an upset possible here, or is it Sam's? What do you guys think?
I think Christopher Plummer is probably the closest to upsetting Sam Rockwell. I think the hurdle that Willem Dafoe has run into is the lack of overall support for his film. You know, Three Billboards ended up taking off in a big way and carrying Sam Rockwell along for the ride. So even though Willem Dafoe has that overdue narrative, the film really wasn't embraced anywhere else along the way. You know, where we could, if we had seen it even just get into Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor at some of these events, that would have helped him a great deal. But it really feels like he's the only thing people are really supporting behind this film. And in that case, I think Plummer, as a sole representative for his film, is probably stronger given the story behind him taking over that role from Kevin Spacey, his stature in the industry. So yeah, I'd say Plummer is the closest, but I think Rockwell is probably pretty safe.
Yeah, I think Rockwell is safe. Although I would love to see Hugh Grant win, because that would just be an awesome win. Like, he's great in Paddington 2. And this would just be a fun win that would have no bearing on the Oscars.
Paul thinks Paddington 2 is going to win Best British Film. Could you see that?
I could totally see that.
Yeah,
like that would just.
I mean, it's nominated for supporting actor and adapted screenplay.
Yeah.
Like they like it, and it's the most critically acclaimed movie.
It's still a perfect 100, right?
Yeah, it still has a perfect 100 at Rotten Tomatoes, which I think now broke the record Lady Bird had until it fell to 99%.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
like, I would just love that. Like, it'll just be like when Bill Nighy won for Love Actually.
It has a higher Metacritic score than The Shape of Water. I mean, honestly, I'd love to see Paddington 2 to still be talking about this at next year's Oscars, because
oh my god, yeah, they need to. They should have released that in like December here, so he would be eligible, because I would support a win for him.
There are so many nominees for Best British Film, aren't there? Like 7 or something. Could it something happen like God's Own Country? You know, the British Brokeback Mountain. Could that end up winning? I'm talking about British film here again.
Yeah, I think it could. Not likely. Like we've seen a lot smaller movies win, like This Is England winning. So and this film had a lot of acclaim and a lot of passionate support. It's probably, of the films I've seen in that category, my favorite. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to bet on it against a couple, like when there are two films that have so much more support overall from the British Academy, like Darkest Hour and Three Billboards, and even films like Paddington 2 that have other nominations. You know, when God's Own Country, it's really this, and its lead actor got in for Rising Star, but that's all.
Yeah, and they usually tend to, if there's like an Oscar player in the mix there, they usually tend to go with that. Like Brooklyn won, you know, and like I think Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy won. So it's like when it's like it has momentum elsewhere and it's like in the race somewhere else, like outside of BAFTA, I feel like those are the times they go with those, as opposed to, you know, very purely specific British releases that no one else outside of Britain has seen.
Let's speculate for a moment of some really wild thing that could happen at BAFTA that could change the race. I'm thinking years ago back to Tilda Swinton, for example, when she won BAFTA, and suddenly Dave Karger and some of our top experts were, and I think Pete Hammond too, were suddenly predicting Tilda, and I was a fool. I didn't.
I predicted her.
Did you? Good for you. What scenario could play out like that in this case? For example, if Oscars are all about hugs, and they are, isn't Woody Harrelson really the character you want to hug the most in of all these nominees, because he turns out to be such a surprisingly inspiring character, and that inspires a huge plot twist, of course, in this movie that makes it remarkable. Could you see, Joyce, Woody winning and then having that be a factor at the Oscars?
I think it's a possibility, especially since he's from one of the Best Picture frontrunners. And, you know, no one was really predicting him early on. You know, it was all Sam Rockwell all the time. And then he got that SAG nomination, you know, and then BAFTA and then Oscar. So I think it's possible, but I think it's too little too late right now. And Sam has done more promotion as well. I think Woody is shooting a movie. So I feel like he doesn't really care, and I feel like he's kind of like given it up to Sam already. Like if you remember at the SAGs when they were doing Best Supporting Actor, he was just like pointing at Sam while the nominees were being announced and stuff. So it's possible, but I think it's Sam's.
Daniel, what happens to your predictions for Oscars if Laurie Metcalf wins on Sunday?
Oh, I'm not sure, actually. I'd be excited because then at least we'd have a race and not every group like picking what the Golden Globes just decided to do, like one after the other after the other. I really do think this should have been a closer race between Allison Janney and Laurie Metcalf all season. If Laurie wins BAFTA, I don't know if it's enough, but since Oscar voting is later, it starts actually 2 days after the BAFTAs this coming Tuesday. Then we could see that show us that, okay, maybe these people, once they take some more time to think about these contenders, that Laurie Metcalf's performance is sticking with them more than Allison Janney's is, which could mean that she's going to get that late surge and win. But I'm not sure if I'd actually switch. It would be a much closer race, which would be gratifying. But I actually think the one that we should watch out for is Daniel Day-Lewis. Gary Oldman seems like a lock, and he probably is. Like, I'm not going to bet against him. But Daniel Day-Lewis has won 4 BAFTAs. He's only lost twice at the BAFTAs.
And this would be, he would tie the record.
He would tie the record with 5 wins. It's supposed to be his last performance if he decides to stay out of retirement that he announced he would be doing after this film. And if he wins at BAFTA, Blanche from Thread has far more support at the Oscars with Best Picture and Best Director nominations. So if he could win at BAFTA, then that's going to really throw Best Actor at the Oscars into question.
Joyce, if Sally wins BAFTA, is that going to make you rethink Frances McDormand for Oscars?
No, I still think it's Frances. Like, I think like they just love her. Like, people love her, and I think they just want to give her another Oscar. And if you go back and watch her first win for Fargo, that room was so loud applauding for her, and I feel like it's going to be just as loud, if not louder, this time around. I feel like she's not your typical Best Actress winner, but I feel like she's just so revered and cool and beloved that like people have been waiting for another chance to give her this one. And she's, it's a great performance, and it's kind of, it embodies, a lot of the female rage. There's a lot of issues with the movie, but none of that is like through her performance. Like, her performance is great. And I think if Three Billboards were only to win 1 Oscar on March 4th, and it's just her, like, I think that's perfectly fine.
What would it take at BAFTA for you to make a change in your predictions in a top category at the Oscars? What would have to happen?
I don't think I would change any of the acting ones, but I am very swayable in Best Picture for anything right now, like any of the top 5, really. So, I mean, like, if anything, if Dunkirk wins Best Picture at BAFTA, like, I don't know if I could still see winning Best Picture at the Oscars right now, but I might move it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think like that just needs a big win somewhere. I can see that winning director more so than picture at BAFTA, like just to give Christopher Nolan something. But I think I would still go with Del Toro for the Oscar then.
The one thing that would sway me in a top category, if Three Billboards wins Best Picture at BAFTA, I'd still pick Shape of Water at the Oscars probably. But if McDonough wins Director, then I'm picking Three Billboards for Best Picture at the Oscars, because that would show an extraordinary amount of industry support for that film. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Del Toro is pretty safe, and I agree with Joyce. Christopher Nolan is probably the closest alternative there. But yeah, that would be the one thing. I might consider moving up Laurie Metcalf if she wins. I don't think Sally Hawkins has the British factor, so if she wins at BAFTA, I don't think that would change my mind about the Oscars. So yeah, I think that would probably be it.
Do we all have Three Billboards for screenplay?
I do.
I do, yeah.
Who are you picking for Oscars?
I'm sticking with Three Billboards for now. I want to see what BAFTA, before I lighten up on any of my enthusiastic support for Three Billboards, which I admit is partially based on personal preference, and that you should never, ever, ever, don't do that at home, fellow pundits. It's dangerous and you fall off that tightrope. But we still have a few weeks for the Oscars, and we can all be fickle and change our mind 10 times. So in the meantime, I'm sticking with my initial Three Billboards prediction all the way through. And but I might be swayed if it's a Shape of Water sweep at BAFTA. That might.
I don't think that Shape will sweep at BAFTA.
Why not?
I think like they'll go hard for Three Billboards. So I think right now our odds have Three Billboards winning 5.
Yeah.
I don't know how many Shape is predicted to win, but I think it's just like
3.
Yeah, like below the line stuff.
Yeah, but I do think I think if Shape of Water is strong, I think it can win probably a maximum of 5 or 6. Like it'll win. It's predicted right now for director, score, and production design. I think others where it's on the bubble, where if there's a lot of support, it could win. I think it could win cinematography over Blade Runner potentially. I think it could maybe even take the sound category if they really love it. But yeah, I don't see it. I don't think it's capable of sweeping like 8 or 9 or 10 awards.
Yeah, because it's not winning supporting actress.
No, and it's not winning original screenplay probably, no matter what happens for Best Picture. So it's gonna have to grab a few below the line plus director. So I'd say like maybe 5.
Yeah, I think like that's also its ceiling at the Oscars if it wins Best Picture.
Which would be
Joyce,
the most awarded Best Picture since The Artist. So
yeah,
that's true. That's true. It used to be, of course, automatic sweeps. I've just forgotten my question for you, Joyce. Oh, cinematography for BAFTA. I'm choosing, maybe foolishly right now, to say, because the cinematography award tends to go to the movie that has the most sweeping, epic views. Of course, it's hard to look at the contenders in that category and not think, oh, that's Dunkirk. I mean, it's all those epic, those sweeping pictures of the water and the ships coming in and the troops on the beach and all these kinds of things. But yet there's this Roger Deakins factor at the Oscars, which is he's ridiculously overdue to win. The voters know that. There's a lot of sweep for Blade Runner as a result of that. How do you think it's going to play out at BAFTA, and why?
I have him winning at BAFTA. They like him more at BAFTA, or they at least reward him more at BAFTA. It would be his 4th win, and he would tie Emmanuel Lubezki with 4, and the record is 5. So I can still see him losing at the Oscars, even if he wins BAFTA, because he's lost 13 times already, and his name isn't on the ballot. So I don't think I can see Dunkirk winning cinematography. Actually, I think that is a stronger number 2 than Shape of Water. But at the Oscars, I could see Shape of Water winning cinematography instead of Deakins, since cinematography and director have lined up the past couple of years. So I could see that just like carrying cinematography along with it, and Deakins will be over 14.
Yeah, I think Deakins. This is a crucial weekend for Deakins because he's won the American Society of Cinematographers is this weekend also. He's won 3 of those and hasn't won an Oscar. He's won 3 BAFTAs and hasn't won an Oscar. And Blade Runner is much more popular at the BAFTAs. He got a Best Director nomination. So if he needs to win, if he can't win both of these, where these 2 groups are both in the tank for Roger Deakins usually, then I'll probably switch away from him at the Oscars.
Yeah, but even if he wins both, like he could still lose the Oscar, like he's done before.
But you know what? The Oscars went with Kevin O'Connell. What was it, last year or the year before?
Last year,
I think. And the sound mixer who was Oscar's biggest loser up till up till then. And of course, his name doesn't appear on the ballot either. And I think there was an awareness of poor Kevin, who was, by the way, on the Board of Governors, to finally give it to him. So I think there's that kind of awareness for deacons. We say that all the time, of course, that, oh, this is going to be his year, and this is going to be his year. And then it doesn't turn out to be the case. My problem with Blade Runner is that it's just that it's a commercial film and it doesn't have the snob appeal.
Yeah, I think that's been a problem with most of his films. Like, it's, you know, Transformers.
Right.
But, you know, I think the cruelest losses for him was 2007. Because Ellsworth won for The Roe v. Blood, and he had No Country for Old Men that year.
And he had a second nomination that year for the
assassination of
Jesse
James. Yeah. And
Wow.
so he was a double loser.
And that's especially surprising because No Country, of course, has the big sweeping panoramic scenes of the desert and all of that. Usually suckers for that. Any final thoughts here? Who's got a final wrap up hit? Is there some category you want to call out? Because you win or lose at Gold Derby based on how smart or stupid you are, especially in those crafts. Those are tricky. You guys are very good at predicting those. Daniel, you first. What crafts categories should our Derbyites think of taking a left turn in if they've got the guts?
Well, I think overall, I'm only going against the consensus in two categories, like our overall odds, and it's Best Picture, where I'm going Shape of Water over Three Billboards, and actually the other one is below the line. It's visual effects, because Blade Runner is so popular at BAFTA. It has 7 or 8 nominations, including Best Director. I'm going with that for visual effects instead of War for the Planet of the Apes, which only has that nomination. So I think the BAFTAs will be a place where they'll go for Blade Runner in that category, since they love it so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say visual effects too, because I think I still have Planet of the Apes at both BAFTA and Oscars, but like the more I thought about it, I was like, Blade Runner makes more sense at BAFTA when you look at their past winners. Like, they like that world more than like the CGI effects of like apes. So, and yeah, like it has more nominations than Planet of the Apes. So I feel like they'll go there for visual effects. And I'm very close to actually changing to Blade Runner at the Oscars too, since Planet of the Apes has never won any of these before for the previous films. And then I don't know if I'm gonna, I mean, I still have 2 days, so I might change, but I hope there are some surprises like last year, you know, with Lion winning adapted screenplay and Dev winning, and Hacksaw Ridge winning editing, which, you know, foretold the Oscars too. So I hope there's something like that. I hope it's not just rubber stamping a bunch of people and the front runners.
Will both of you guys watch the actual acceptance speeches and watch the tape ceremony? It's not live, so you actually have to invest the time in sitting down and watching it on cable TV.
I'll DVR it, but I'll be watching the Olympics.
Oh, ouch!
Same. The only gold that matters this month.
Yes. The only thing that could delay the Oscars is the Olympics.
Whoa! Oh boy, that's scary. All right, well, thanks a bunch, you guys. Good luck on your predictions.